countdown? We're good? Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
I got this drink. Shit.
Live.
Okay, welcome. We're live. This is great. We're are we in a secret location, or can we tell people the location we're at now?
We're in a hotel lobby basement.
Yeah, we're in a hotel lobby. Thank you very much. My name is Todd Shapiro. I'm the CEO of Red Light Holland, and actually I haven't sat on stage in quite some time, so I'm really excited to do this. And we're here with, well, let me start with Sarah.
Yes.
Sarah is our Chief Technology and Innovation Officer of the company, the founder and creator of Radix Motion as well. And someone who we just completely admire for Red Light Holland for all the great programs she's put into place when it comes to rec and tech. As you know, we're a company that advocates equitable, affordable access of psilocybin, and Sarah's helped create consensual data tools around that so we can learn more as hopefully other catalysts and markets open up. So thank you, Sarah Hashkas, for being here.
Thanks.
Okay.
And Sarah will take questions later for the Q&A, so everyone listening live, I actually don't know where to look. Is there anywhere, like, should I be looking anywhere? Anyway, just looking straight at the audience. But we will be doing a Q&A. Not only, there's a few cameras here.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
I'm losing my vision. So we'll do Q&A later, not only just here in the audience, but also online. So thank you so much for everybody who's watching us live streaming. To the right of me, you may have seen him, heard of him, know him, bumped into him at one point. Honestly, one of the most, I find a kind guy. He might tell you otherwise, but I've been doing stand-up comedy and acting and so many great things in the entertainment world for so long, and a phenomenal entrepreneur as well. Please welcome the Chief Creative Officer of Red Light Holland, Russell Peters.
Hi. Hi, I'm Russell.
How are you, Russell?
Hello, Theodore. How are you? And hello, Sarah.
Hi.
Listen, I used to do radio in the day, and Russell would come in, and I was in like complete awe of this guy. I was always kind of, just anxious and nervous, still am anxious and nervous, but around people with great success and try to pick their brains and learn from them and stuff. And, I think I consider ourselves friends now, and here we are on stage, and
Of course.
Yeah. I still haven't got the invite to the new house, but...
Well, no, that's open. That's an open invite. Just this COVID thing got in the way.
Well, and actually, it's interesting because I wanted to start with COVID. Like, as a stand-up comedian who, has performed to tens of thousands of people at a time and stuff, when everything was shut down or the world was all effed up and stuff, like, how was that for you?
That was, well, at first it was like, oh, I got a nice break. This is going to be okay. And then it got a little tedious. And then you start to find out who you are. You really do discover who you are in those situations, and you find out where the holes are in your life, and then you discover all these other things about yourself, and it's a time of reckoning,
Do you mind if I ask, like, what you discovered about yourself?
Well, I discovered I was spending too much money. I was literally hemorrhaging money during that whole time, because I was living like a rapper. I was making so much money, like doing stand-up, that I'd never considered not working. So it was like I was always going to make the money, and then I was like, I just had these bills. I didn't realize my bills were like astronomical per month. Like astronomical, like $250,000 a month I was spending.
That's a big burn.
That's like a big burden.
That's like a burn rate of some of these psychedelic companies that don't exist anymore.
Yeah, right, exactly. And then I was in a bad relationship, and it all took its toll. It boiled, and it all came to a head. And then I made a bunch of changes in my life, and things are much better now.
Not to do like therapy or anything, but when you're going through all this, Russell, and you're a big performer. Like, we went to one of the smart shops yesterday where our products are, and the guy couldn't believe that he met you. Like, he was just so excited. So that
he was high though. And he was hallucinating. He kept calling me Tom Cruise. And
but I mean, that happens all over the world for you. And when you have those extra pressures on yourself, like now knowing, okay, I got to cut the burn, I got to save in here. I'm not like, do you start feeling more vulnerable because of that shit? Because you think you have this image to uphold?
No, I never. I guess to a certain extent, I was doing a lot of things for the show of it, and then when things got real, I didn't care anymore. I was like, been there, done it, had it. It doesn't excite me anymore. The Rolls Royces don't excite me anymore. The Bentleys, all these things that really equaled nothing. I realized at that time I had like 30 watches, You know, I don't need 30. Well, I sold a bunch of them during all that time. I sold all my cars. I downsized my house. I got rid of the baby mama. You know, I met a real woman. I met a real woman. I married a real woman. You know what I mean? I made much better choices. It's all about making better choices.
It sounds like perspective and being grateful for the things you have were really important for you. I mean, because this middle-age stuff is kind of crazy.
I can't be middle-aged. I'm 52 years old. I'm middle-aged. That means I'm living to 104 years old. I'm past middle-aged. I'm closer to dementia than I am to anything else. You know.
Do you feel like you lose your mind a little bit with age?
No, I think you seemingly look like you're losing your mind, but it's because you become less patient with new things. Like when new things are brought to you from younger people, you start resisting it because you're like, well, you don't know anything. You haven't lived life. And then you forget that you had these ideas when you were young, and you got the same resistance from people our age when you were that age. So you have to navigate through that a little bit better.
Do you like navigating through this new world? Social media, everyone growing up seems like quicker than they ever did and stuff.
I mean, I don't love it. I understand that social media is a necessary evil. I mean, we're on my Twitter right now, you know what I mean? And there's 4 million people on that thing, and I don't know who they are.
Well, we're getting a message from Crown Loyalty saying Todd and Russell are real deal good people. So.
Oof. I guess we got to pay them. Well, there's a check we got to write.
Well, it's interesting, right? Like, because I try to be as genuine, authentic as possible. I think that about Russell, but what I love about you, man, and we'll get into the journey in a moment here, but you've found a way, like in this, and listen, it's a different world as we were just discussing, and it's a woke world. We always hear about.
I'm not worried about the woke world.
And you're not, and in your act, you're so good at poking fun at people, looking in the audience and calling them out on things. And that hasn't been difficult for you? Still doing that? No,
I think. Excuse me. If I had just started into this business and tried to do what I'm doing, that would be a problem. But because I've been doing this for 33 years, it's almost like, if I changed it up right now, people would be like, what the hell happened to this guy? This is, you order steak, you want the steak. If they bring you chicken, you're like, I ordered steak. Well, we're out of chicken. We're out of steak. Here's a chicken. Like, I don't want your chicken, You're going, I'm the steakhouse. You're coming for me the steak. I'm going to give you the meat. Hey, yo.
Do people ever complain more now than they used to, or for you anyway?
No, the people that do comment or complain are people that were not at the show. People that are making their own assumptions. It's this whole fake woke world that we're living in. It makes me laugh because I'm like, the people that you're trying to appease were people that were never going to buy a ticket to see you in the first place. Why are you bending for them? It's like when I complain about rap music nowadays because I'm such a hip-hop head. I complain about rap music, but they're not making rap music for me anymore. So it's redundant for me to complain about it. They're making music for young people. This is what they want to hear. So for me to be like, I don't like it, they're like, good, it wasn't made for you.
So me being the radio guy and always trying to do the segue and tying things in, when we're a company that's very concerned about mental health and people's well-being, and I think Sarah's more concerned about my well-being than anybody. But how is it that and I think I know my reasons for it, but in your thoughts, where we can still have fun with people, still poke fun, still be real, still be authentic, but at the end of the day, care. And there's a balance there. There's some formula. I don't know if it's sort of specifically written down like a math formula with an equation, but I mean, what's your formula? Because I know you care.
Well, my formula is it's intent. As long as you know my intention when I'm saying things that may be considered off color or taboo nowadays, by hearing the tone of my voice and the look in my eyes and the body language, that I'm joking around. You know what I mean? That's where people get lost nowadays because they're so fixated on a word or a term that they're like, oh, he said that word, he said that term, he's a bad guy. And I'm like, did you hear me say it? Or did you read me say it? Or did you just want to hear it? And then that's all it took for you. And if you're that easily triggered, we don't need you. You're probably not a good person to begin with, and there's something else going on with you that you need some reflection on.
Does it help as well to, because I know you, but you do it in your act all the time. You're also self-deprecating. You have fun with yourself too. I mean, do too many people maybe take themselves too seriously these days?
I think a lot of people want to be these like fake activists nowadays, and it's, listen, just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right. That's what I always say. You could be offended. That doesn't mean you're right. You have the right to be offended, but that doesn't mean because you're offended that your point is valid. It just means maybe you got some introspection to do.
Do you worry with fame and stuff that it always seems like people are trying to take down people with fame? Do you give a shit about that stuff?
I don't really care about it because I think my fame lays just under the sidewalk. You know what I mean? Like I'm just enough below the surface where people, if they went at me, they'd be like, well, that was a waste of time. You know what I mean? And if I got a little bigger, maybe, but I'm not worried about it because I'm like, where I am is exactly where I want to be. You know what I mean?
When I first started talking to Russell about Red Light Holland, one of the things I say, obviously Russell, being this great entrepreneur and very promotional and stuff, thought could help the company definitely just get us exposure, help with creative ideas, help with branding, all this kind of stuff. But also, I think what's interesting is I remember the conversations. You're like, wow, I actually know people in LA. They're microdosing. I know people using psilocybin and stuff. It's something you have always been familiar with through the friends of yours, correct?
Yeah, like a lot of people that I respect a lot do a lot of the whether they do microdosing or maximum dosing. I know a lot of people that I admire and respect their brains do it, and they do it often. And they tell me about how it just opens them up a little bit to the places where they need to go to. Whereas I think a lot of us are linear and in this hallway. This world of psilocybin can spread those walls a little bit further apart so you can get the broader picture.
And it was interesting because when we did bring you in, I had all sorts of investors and people on social media, and I'm trying my best to reply to everyone and do what I can to kind of mitigate whatever concerns they have and stuff. And I'm like, listen, Russell has been open from day one about never experiencing psilocybin. Yeah. Russell went on Joe Rogan twice, talked about the company, but was very open about, okay, when the time is right, when the time is ready, you would explore it, proper set and setting, all the things we talk about as a company, the intake meetings stuff. And beyond COVID and now the tours, and you happen to be in England, this felt like the right time for you.
Yeah, this just happened to, this is the way I wanted it to happen. I happened to be in Europe on tour, and this is like a 45-minute flight from England. I was like, this is the time to do it. And I hit you up and I said, Todd, how about this time? And you're like, perfect, let's go.
Yeah, I'm like, thanks, we got to get this done.
Yeah.
Well, you did joke. You're like, this was supposed to be my downtime, though.
It was supposed to be my downtime, but I mean, it's not like I'm doing a lot. You know what I mean?
So here you are. You made it to the Netherlands, and you performed in Wembley Stadium and Dubai before this. I mean, it's like I often just consider and think about how much downtime would mean to you in a way. So thank you, by the way. We're very grateful at Red Light Holland. 2 kids back home, all this kind of stuff. So you're here. How did it start with you? I know you met our therapist, Jeff Hamburg, and you did an intake meeting. You spoke on Zoom and stuff. So
I think I'd spoken to Jeff now a couple of times on Zoom. And Jeff is very soothing. There he is over there. Look at him. I feel like he's putting me to sleep right now. And Jeff is very, so even, you know what I mean? And just so soothing when you talk to him. It's almost like a therapy session when you do talk to him. And he was asking me what I wanted from the experience and what I was hoping for. And, I really went in with no expectations because I do understand that, everybody's trip is a different trip. And I didn't want to go in with I want this to happen or that to happen or I'm expecting this. You can't go in like that. You really do have to go open. And I went in, so to speak, naked. Thank God for Jeff I wasn't naked because I didn't want him to vomit. You know what I mean? I was naked on the Zoom. I sure was, wasn't I? You're welcome, Jeff. Speaking of mushrooms.
So you went and met Jeff. It was only yesterday, and Jeff Hamburg, by the way, who has his business that Red Light's very affiliated with, obviously, and Jeff is also our Red Light Holland therapist, and we've done our consumer packaged goods, I think, so well, and that's part of Sarah's responsibility and great innovation, where she has always allowed opportunity for people to get in touch with Jeff. Through a barcode, and we can speak about the tech later, but about support, and tools of support is one thing Red Light's tried to do so well, and we think we're, the best in the world at that in terms of how you can sell a product legally, but still do it responsibly. So you go and you meet Jeff, and was it like, I mean, you're a fun guy. Like, I know you make everything fun and giddy and stuff. Did you sort of just go into it like that?
I mean, I don't know. That'd be a good question for Jeff. I just know I went in as me, so I don't know how he received it, but I think by the end of it, he understood that's just this guy. I don't think Jeff was like, this guy's a loon. He might have. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure his daughter must have looked at me like, this guy's mental. And she was like hoping for the best for me. Like, I hope this gets him out of this.
Well, take us through maybe just walking there that morning and your thoughts, because it is very nerve-wracking for some people going into their first journey.
Well, the good thing is my assistant Eddie went with me. I believe you were supposed to be there.
I had troubles getting down here. That's a whole other interview.
Right.
Yeah.
So Eddie took your place.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is Jeff didn't know that. He knew that you weren't coming. He didn't know that Eddie was going to take your place. Fortunately, he had an extra setting for him. So I think I was comfortable because Eddie was there. And so that made me a little bit more relaxed. And no, it was cool. He has it set up really well. It's got a nice little thing going, and it's got the table with all the little different Hindu gods. And I was like, well, as an atheist, I was like, this is interesting. I was like,
and so, like, just before you're about to consume the truffles, and they are Muskoka truffles, I believe, like actually our brand of truffles. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it wouldn't make sense to do somebody else's.
That would have been a dumb business decision.
Yeah. Like, he worked for Coca-Cola, and all of a sudden, here I'm for the Pepsi Challenge.
Yeah, no. I mean, any thoughts just before you consume them? Like, no fear? Like, you just
no, I didn't have any fear about it. Again, because I was in the setting with Jeff, and I know that this is what he does. It's not like just some random guy. It's not like if Rogan had told me to come to his house. Come on, dude, we're going to do mushrooms. And then he's standing there laughing at me, you know what I mean? Like, that's not what I need. I need somebody who can watch me and make sure I'm not goofing off, you know what I mean?
But I find it so interesting because you are over 50, and it's one of those, I would assume you've tried a lot of things in life. I'm not insinuating drugs,
haven't,
but
actually.
no, I'm just meaning like food or drinks.
I'm not that open to a lot of things. I really am not. I didn't start drinking alcohol until I was 31. Wow. And, I've tried marijuana a couple of times, and it's not for me. And that was it for my narcotics world. You know what I mean? Like, and no, I'm not. I didn't start eating sushi till I was in my 30s as well. I was very closed off to a lot of things because, again, my parents weren't open to a lot of things. So there was not a lot of adventurous things happening growing up. It was very like, this is what you do, this is what we do. Anything outside of that might be weird. And I'm like, cool. I don't want that.
Would you? I mean, you don't mind talking about this publicly if your mom hurt?
I don't care.
Yeah.
These are the facts.
That's great. I mean, and this is part of it, right? Is ending a stigma around all this stuff. So you consume it. How do you consume it? And let's get into it. I mean, that's what people are waiting for.
So Jeff hands me a bowl with one of those. What's it called? A mortar, and So this looks bad on TV, but so there I was pounding my mushrooms, and I was grinding my fungi, and he told me to beat it up, hey-o, and I did. I left it as a pulp. And he complimented it. I said, "How's this?" He goes, "This is great." I think he was being sarcastic, but he was like, "This is the best I've ever seen," and it's a work of art. I had it down to almost a paste, I think, and then he made a porcini broth. Porcini broth that he pours into on top of it, which makes sense because the porcini is a mushroom and it's a nice salty kind of deal. You don't want this, this fucking disgusting truffle root with something sweet. That would be gross. You know what I mean? So he has the right combination going there. And I love mushrooms in all forms, so I was quite happy with it. Eddie, not so much. He was kind of grossed out by the mushroom taste and aspect of it, but I finished mine right away. I was like, this is good. And then Eddie was just like, and he was looking for tapatio. He was trying to add all kinds of things to it,
And actually, not to get too into it, but that is the interesting part about with over time, hopefully with research and development and product development stuff that, yeah, we obviously always want to improve the product, but these are sort of where you got to be careful within the legal frameworks and stuff. So we get that. And it's still kind of archaic in how it can be served in a way, but this is nonetheless what you did. So
yeah, I think looking at the porcini as a chaser, so to speak, So maybe if I was to do a truffle on my own, I wouldn't have any porcini broth. I wouldn't be that prepared. So maybe I'd take a piece of chocolate and do it, just to to muddle the taste a little bit.
I think Hans has this whole idea of putting M&Ms in the packages or stuff. We'll talk. Hans, of course, the president here, who's in the audience. So, and then do you recall then at that point, like time frame of?
Well, so then I take it and then they say, well, go ahead, lay down now. And I lay down and they gave me a mask, an eye mask. I put the eye mask on and was like, why'd you have that mask on? I go, because Jeff's house is really bright. He's got a glass ceiling, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be tripping out or just going blind. So I think it was better for me with the mask on because it is a mental trip as far as I'm concerned. I don't having done it only once, for me it's a mental trip now. So I don't know when it'll become a physical trip or whatever other kind of trip it'll be next time, but it was a mental trip, and it was great for me to have the blinders on because I have incredible ADD, and I would be thoroughly distracted without it. So that helped me stay there in the moment. I lay down, and I don't know how long it took to hit me because I remember laying there and thinking, this is taking forever. I'm like, there's no way it's going to hit me this fast. It's not going to hit me fast because, you consumed it. It's the same thing when you eat something that's bad for you. It's not going to hit you immediately. It's going to hit you in about 30 minutes. So I think I started to doze off for a little bit. And when you're dozing off, you have these little dreams on the way. And I'm like, is that it? No, that wasn't it. And you're like, that's it? No, that's not it. Like, no, still not it. And you're like, no, these are regular. These are all still regular things that are happening. And then once you start tripping, you're like, oh. And I knew I started tripping because I started giggling. I was just laying there with a big dumb grin on my face and just like, and I kept like giggling from the stomach too. It wasn't like a fake. It wasn't like a hee hee. It was like I was trying to fight the laughter at that point because I didn't want to be a lunatic. But I kept giggling and everything was making me giggle. And Jeff has his music playing in the background, all kinds of different stuff, And the music was making me laugh actually because music is very important to me, as you know, from DJing since 1985. And so music is always setting the moods for me. I have different music for different moods, and Jeff has his thing that he wants to do with you with that music, and you got to be open to that because this is his world you're in right now. So he has some didgeridoo music, and I'm like laughing because it's like making me laugh because I'm like, this music is so ridiculous. And then there was like this dramatic music happening, to me it reminded me of like a car chase in an action movie, like bam, 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 bam. And I'm laughing because my trip is like really slow. And it's like I'm floating, and I'm like, and I'm like, and my brain is going, who's this dramatic music for? This doesn't even match the scene that's happening right now, And I remember a couple of times I just opened my mask to let them know, still there, good, and I closed my mask and I go right back to tripping again. It was interesting though. It reminded me of like a lot of, it was like a dark blue scenery that I was seeing, and like lots of floating things. They were like little floating fish. And at one point I saw myself dead. But it wasn't me. Like I knew, I didn't see myself, but I saw everybody I knew. Well, I didn't know that I saw a scene that seemed like it was for me. And the only person I recognized, this is going to seem very odd, but the only person I recognized in that scene was Crazy Legs from Rocksteady Crew. Because I'm such a hip-hop nerd, but Crazy Legs and I are very good friends. But the story behind Crazy Legs is he is the impetus for the reason why I'm so into hip-hop. Because in 1982, I saw breakdancing, and he was the guy that I saw. And I was like, I want to do that. And then I started doing tagging, graffiti stuff, and then I started... I was breakdancing, I was doing graffiti, and then when breakdancing kind of fizzled out in '85, I fell in love with the music, and then I still wanted to play the music, and that's when I got into DJing. Really, the only element I can't do is rapping. I mean, that's just it's not for me. You hear my voice. This is not a good rapping voice. So I saw crazy legs when I saw this dead vision of me, but I didn't see me. And he was running this way to go for whatever, and everybody was like standing around and crying, and I was laughing at them. I'm like, what are you guys crying for? This is hilarious. And I'm like, look at these idiots. They're trying to do all these things for me now. And in my head, it was like, why are you trying to do it all now? I'm gone. And I'm like, and in my head, it was like, oh, well, bye, guys. I'll see you later. And everyone's like, and in my head, people were like, what about your kids? I'm like, they'll be fine. My brain was just like, oh, well, at this point, it became about me. It didn't become about anybody else at that point. It became this moment where I was like, oh, yeah, nobody else. It's just about me right now. And it was kind of a nice feeling because I'm never really about me.
I'm not a therapist, obviously, and maybe we should even have Jeff up here, but it sounds to me like, it really does sound like this to me, and maybe others, is that you're content. Like it feels like it's despite all these hassles in life and stresses in life and whatever you've been through and all the COVID struggles we discussed, to giggle and to laugh and to enjoy and then see that, I feel like that would be very heartwarming. I don't think I would get there, to be honest. I feel like
I think you would, maybe.
You think so? I don't know. We'll see.
I was telling Jeff before we did it because, again, when I didn't, the first time I got drunk was at 31. And the reason I never drank was because, I used to box, so nobody around me was really drinking or doing drugs or anything. So it was like, it just didn't occur to me. And I think I was a control freak. And I wasn't sure what I was repressing. I wasn't sure if I was repressing anger, sadness. I didn't know what it was. And the first time I got drunk, I just kept laughing at everything. And now when I do drink or get drunk, I'm a very happy drunk. I giggle and I make jokes, and that's all I'm about when I'm... So again, I didn't know, again, you're talking 20, 21 years later, what am I repressing now? And it turns out still happiness, good. I have an eternal happy flame. That's a nice place to be.
Sarah, do you have anything to add to that? Because
I thought the story is super interesting, right? A lot of times people talk about ego death in a psychedelic trip,
right?
And this is of versions. There's a lot of different versions here, and I felt heartwarmed that you felt that people cared about you even after you're gone.
Yeah, it felt nice, but I was like, well, it's a little late, guys. I'm like, what are you trying to do everything now? I'm like, literally, I'm stop it. They were trying to do this and get that, and at the same time, I could watch them trying to talking about planning a funeral, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. Don't do it. To save your money. That's what I was like. I was like, bye. I'm just floating away. It wasn't even like I could stay. I was just like, well, see you guys. I just kept floating. I just kept floating away from them.
That's wild. If you know Russell personally, which I'm one of the fortunate people do, but you're a giving person. You're very giving. Hey, come by my house, this, that, whatever. Maybe people need to give you more here in this life.
Oh no, I'm good without all that. Just I gave Todd AIDS, full blown. That's not a nose. That's a lesion. That's.
Russell.
Sorry, I couldn't help it. It was right there.
We need to, I shouldn't have ever. The key is with Russell, you can never compliment him on anything.
Yeah, I don't like compliments.
Because, it's the worst part, because then you get it back tenfold. But, so pleasurable for you. Was it weird with Eddie there as your assistant and that dynamic that you would have with him and over the years?
No, I had actually thought Eddie had done it before, because he's such a degenerate. I thought... I was like, Eddie must have done this before. He goes, no, I never really done it properly. So he did it. But his trip lasted way longer than mine. And we took the same amount, which is odd because he's also a much thicker human being. And I'm not like a thin guy, but he's a thicker guy. I figured it would hit me harder than it would hit him. But I guess because he drank alcohol the night before.
It mostly depends on the amount of receptors. And people have different amount of receptors in their brain.
Right.
We lose them as we grow older, but also people are just different.
Yeah. I figured it would. Yeah, it was wild because when I came out of it, Jeff and Mirti, I can't say it. I feel so bad about that. Can I just call you Mai? Anyway, when I came out, they were like, no, it's going to come back. I go, I don't think it is. And they're like, it goes in waves. I go, I think the waves have come and gone already because I was feeling it all. I could feel a dip and drop and come back when I was with the blindfold on. And then once I took it off and I came out, I was like, no, I think it's done now. And they're like, no, give it a minute. I'm like, no, it just never came back, But Eddie was still tripping for the rest of the evening.
So pleasurable for you.
I had a great time with it. there's got to be a way of doing it where it's a shorter version of it. You know, I think it would be more pleasurable for me if it was for less time. But that's only because of my
time constraints.
Time constraint,
and the same way you wouldn't go golfing.
Yeah, it's the exact same reason I can't go golfing. I mean, you know, it's I don't have that attention span for it because even I was getting bored being high. You know, even as I was floating around, I go, "This is great, but can we get out of here now, guys?"
Interesting. I mean, there are other ways to. I mean, there's other. You know, some people talk about DMT or whatever. You know, there's shorter highs for sure. In the psychedelic world, of course, you know, working within legal frameworks, which is what we do.
Right.
And then there's the microdosing aspect too, which is not really ever getting, and, you know, we don't even like to say high, but, you know, through these journeys or experiences, which really is more of a constant. It's almost like, in my opinion anyway, not making medical claims, it's like a vitamin where you're just kind of consistent and helping with focus and anxiety. Is that something, if, say, it was legal in California one day, which, by the way, we're all hoping it will be, and, you know, we think there might be small catalysts behind the scenes that will get there. Again, not saying anything if there's an investor going, oh, California's opening up, that's something. You know. But do you think it's something you would try again?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I would do it again. I would want to only do it with people that are doing it with me. You know what I mean? You don't want to be the only guy, because then you're not sure if you're high or if you're just acting high at that point. And I say high just for lack of a better term. I was at a party a couple of weeks ago, and everybody was doing little microdoses there. And they all kept, let's take this picture. Is this even happening? And I'm like, what? And they're like, these are like big name comics. I don't want to blow anybody's spot up. And they're like, come on, let's take this picture. And I go, okay, I'll take, I was just drinking. So I was like, yeah, let's take it. And they go, is this really happening or am I high? And I go, this is really happening right now. And then I sent them the picture, and then they text me back the next day. I can't believe that was real.
You know? Sounds like they weren't microdosing.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Well, they had a chocolate bar, and they were supposed to take a corner. I saw them eating half the chocolate bar.
Oh, yeah, that can catch up quick, those chocolate bars, for sure. Yeah, I mean, and again, not to sound promotional, but it's... I always sound promotional.
You always sound promotional.
It's like, I know everything I'm doing. I'm like, you know, used car salesman.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I think it's great that you did it because you were so genuine about it, and you didn't try to bullshit anybody. You didn't try to tell people I'm with this company and I know what I'm talking about. No, you're going to figure it out on the go. And fluidity is a lot about this space. You know, as we learn, take time, get educated, and be informed. And I'm just happy you had a pleasurable experience, and I'm happy to know it seems like you're.
Yeah, no, I would like to do it again, and I think I even told Jeff I think I would like to do a higher dose because I feel like I had sort of a light trip, you know. Not that I'm expecting this big hardcore trip or anything, but it was very easy, you know. And I'm not looking for it to get more difficult, but I would like it to get a little deeper, you know.
Well, I'm promotional, so now's the time to announce and unveil that we're doing red light cruises. Russell Peter like the rock cruises, and we're doing trips, you know, the overseas and no border, international border laws
that'd be
or
pretty
anything.
wild, actually.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're doing.
I'm going to hold you to that.
Yeah, we're doing red light cruise ships. Anyone who's listening or watching, come on. I mean, and we're all going to trip out there. No one can get us by the law. So and you're the main feature. You got to do some stand up there though.
No, hell no. I don't think I could even stand up. That's the thing. They had me lying down. And I'm like, how do people do this standing up? Like, how do you get to a space where you can do these trips standing up and functioning? And then Jeff's like, yeah, it happens. You'll get there. And I'm like, do I want to get there, or do I just want this, you know?
Well, and that's what's great about, you know, meeting Sarah and then working with Jeff is, you know, experience, like years and years of experience to understand this and to understand where it's going. Maybe Sarah, like, and, you know, I don't want to get too long-winded here, but, like, you can talk a little bit about the science of it and just, you know, you talked about the receptors and things.
Sarah's the brains behind it.
Oh, she is. She is all the brains, exactly.
Well, Russell was the one that helped narrate our VR experience, Wisdom, that explained.
Oh, yes, I did do that.
Yeah. I heard your voice so many times, you know, hours of debugging. And what psychedelics do, and we're talking about classical psychedelics, you'll hear a lot of people say ketamine or MDMA are psychedelics. In my book, they're not. They're very different substances. They have different risk profiles. Here we're talking about things like psilocybin, which is what our company deals with. And that activates a receptor called the 5-HT2A receptor. And that receptor is sitting on the parts of our brain that create our prior knowledge, things that we grew up with, maybe traumas that we hold, and it's hyperactivating those neurons. So actually it's breaking down these biases that your brain might have and creating an extra plastic situation that you're in. But then when you're in this extra plasticity situation, what really happens is based on the environment that you're in, right? And that's why we're really trying to educate people about being in safe environments, being with people that they trust. If they're doing it in a therapy session, really do due diligence and make sure that you're with people that are not going to abuse their power. And then go with it, experience. And for some people, it might bring up very difficult emotions. I'm pretty glad to hear that for you it was really smooth sailing.
Yeah, I mean, I was asking Jeff too. I'm like, you've done this obviously before?
Yeah,
a little bit. Have you ever had a bad trip?
I've had, I don't like using the words good and bad because I find they're religious almost, they're very judgmental. But I've had what I would call difficult trips. I've had repressed memories that would come up, feeling of death anxiety,
right?
Which I was super impressed with how your acceptance of your mortality.
I've always been accepting of death, though. It's just how I am. It's kind of like, oh well, if I go, I had a good time out here.
Yeah.
See you guys on the other side.
I think that's a great gift to share with people because I think so much of how humans behave comes from that fear and then inventing stories of afterlife that cause them to do sometimes terrible things in this life.
Yeah, that's always bothered me. The people's this promise of something that is not. There's no proof of.
Yeah.
Snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
I didn't sell that one. Come on.
We do have a bunch of questions from people that have been sending them in.
I would love to do it. Yeah. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice here. But thank you to everyone in Amsterdam here, but also live stream. This is really neat. And this, this will live forever, Russell. And again, we'll get to the question in a second, but I had to answer questions for one of these publications the other day about celebrity and psychedelics and are you allowed to promote and brand and all this kind of stuff. And I said, listen, I think if it comes from a genuine place, yeah, you are. And celebrities have influence. So, the influence here is about helping positive change. And
I feel like psychedelics are the reason that we have so much great technology happening in the world. I think it comes from a lot of these really smart people taking some certain trips. I don't know which ones they took or how they administered it, but I think Steve Jobs did it, and I'm pretty sure Elon Musk has done it. Any of these people that get out there and do some really game-changing things, they had to have done something like this, because there's no way you're just going to sit there and think of it on your own. Your brain needs to open up to get to these other places. And you look at Dave Chappelle and how, as a comic, I've known him for 27 years, but just to see how he's become so articulate with what he's trying to get across now, and just watching his style of comedy go from what it was to what it is now. But I know that he trips out a lot. And he's the one that was like, you got to do it with me and John Mayer. And I'm like, hold on a second, kid. Let me try it one time with some people who will monitor me properly, I'm not going to go, it's like, I used to box, but it's not like I'm going to get in the ring with Tyson and be like, come on, Mike, let's spar a little bit, No, I'm not going to do that. Understand where you are, know your place.
Have a coach to get you there.
Yeah,
So let's get into the Q&A.
Yeah, so we actually have a question very relevant to that. Who would you want to trip with now that you've tried this?
I would want to trip with somebody who is early in this trippy world as well, just so we can, our experiences will be very similar at that point. Maybe not similar, but we would at least have the same track record behind us. So I don't know who, because I don't know who does and who doesn't, but it would be somebody on that level.
Sounds like some of your friends are more experienced.
Yeah. I asked my wife if she wanted to do it, but guess what? Former drug addict. I'm just kidding. Just heroin. Don't worry about it. It's
Just for the science, psilocybin is actually really showing great potential for drug addiction treatment.
Really?
Yep.
That's good.
It breaks down, again, these cycles, right, of addiction, a prior that's very strong,
Yeah.
and lets people free themselves from it.
I would imagine couples therapy too.
It's a great potential there. I don't know of a lot of people that are doing it yet.
Why don't you try that?
Oh, yeah. We're live stream here, but.
No, but I mean, it's a
No,
great idea.
I would love to. Actually, I mean, no. Truth, I mean, I don't care. I'm an open book. No, this whole CEO of a pub co, you got to be careful. Nah, you just say what you say. But I'm in therapy, and my therapist did say to me, which was fascinating. She didn't really know what I did at this point, and she thought I should try ketamine, and that she knew progressive therapists in the ketamine world, just because of how my mind.
My doctor had suggested ketamine to me as well.
Which I thought was so interesting. And then I finally said, well, I'm in the psychedelic world. I'd rather see my own therapist in the Netherlands. So maybe this is now at a point where I have to now get to. Because I still haven't had a good, healthy trip. I've been microdosing, but in like my college days. So I got to try it because I'm ready to explore. I just don't think I'm going to be as giddy and laughy as you, but we'll see. We'll try to do it. Okay.
I mean, I was resisting a lot.
Yeah.
And at some point you can't.
Well, the problem is the public markets suck your soul out of you, right? Like Radio Todd would have loved to have done this stuff, and now you're like so worried about everything. We're growing a business. We have great people on staff.
I mean, that could all be at the forefront, and
Yeah.
what you're suppressing is the other stuff.
Well, yeah, and I want to get back to that stuff because I actually think I'm more natural that way, and better. I perform better that way, to be honest.
Right.
So actually, love being on stage today. I think this is the best Todd I've been in quite some time.
See? Look at you.
I'm being honest. Okay, sorry. Go.
We have Marcus asking, how did Russell feel the next day? Did you have a hangover?
No, I did wake up with a mild headache this morning, though. I think that I just overslept or slept awkward, but no, I felt fine. I felt fine after we were done when I went to eat dinner with these guys. But they kept going, "You're still tripping." I go, "No, I'm not." They just kept looking everything I was doing like, "Oh, you're still tripping." I go, "I'm not." What do you?
You're like, it's hot in here. It's hot in
I
here.
was
You're
hot.
tripping. Yeah.
I was hot because I was running around the city trying to find everybody. Had a sweatshirt on, a jacket on, a hat on. I'm like, and my head was sweating. I'm like, "Oh, you're tripping." I go, "It's hot. They don't have air conditioning out here." Do you?
Did you have any dreams that you
No,
remember?
that's the weird thing. I was hoping for some interesting dreams. I never had any. I was hoping for like a bonus dream, like an aftershock, so to speak. I was sleeping with my dream. Save the relationship.
We have Karimsicle asking, do you think psychedelics can help folks take themselves less seriously in the comedy entertainment world? And also he wants to open for you.
Say this whole thing again.
Do you think psychedelics can help folk take themselves less seriously in the comedy and entertainment world?
Well, I mean, which folks? I mean, the audience folks? I mean, it could probably help people that... I think there's a lot of people that do take themselves too seriously nowadays, and it probably could help them loosen up a little. Because alcohol can go either way. Alcohol will amplify whatever mood you're in. If you're in a happy mood, you'll be in a great mood. If you're in a bad mood, you'll be in a horrible mood. If you're depressed, you'll be really depressed. You know what I mean? So this takes you to a place, as far as I've seen, that it just takes you to who you are. Mm-hmm. And it gets to the center of you, and it opens up things that you would normally be like, nah. You're like, oh, it's pretty good. And no, you can't open for me.
Let me ask you that.
Who is it again? Is he a comic?
Karimsicle.
Yeah, no.
Not with that not with that handle. Sarah, maybe you can answer that question as well in terms of your experience. A lot of people who are much more experienced in psychedelics. Like, do you actually think it's a place for people to be and use and try responsibly to take themselves less seriously? Like, do you think that could help?
It helped me. Yeah, it helped me be a bit more whimsical, go back to being a child. It does take our brain back to being a child. And then if you are in a safe environment that lets you explore and doesn't tell you, don't do this, don't do that, right, which most children grow up with, it can rekindle your creativity and your childlike explorations. And I heard you were drawing some pictures.
Oh yeah, I drew a picture. It's funny because Jeff has this thing where after you do your journey, you go down to the kitchen and he gives you all kinds of writing utensils, Sharpies, markers, paint, everything, glitter pens, and he says, just draw something. And I only know how to draw certain things, so I just went to what I did. I drew a b-boy standing, with a boombox and some graffiti, and they had all these nice, vibrant colors that I was enjoying to do, and I left it for Myrte for. I signed her name on it, and she probably threw it out by now. But I mean, but it is I think it is a very. If you could send me a picture of it, I really did like the look of it. Oh, good.
It's an NFT now.
And I'm good with that too.
It is not an NFT, just if anybody.
But if it is, check out Jeff Hamburg.
Okay, what else do we have here?
Any more questions?
Yeah, Todd, are you envious of Russell's trip?
Oh, I'd like to think I don't get to a place of envy at all, to be honest. I honestly feel like I've always celebrated in people's successes. And if anything, I've tried to learn from people with success to try to get to hopefully a different place in life. And when I say that, more economically sound, but also what you learn from people's brains, just because I admire that. So no, there's zero envy in that. If anything, it makes me want to try it more.
Well, I definitely would say he's not envious. As a matter of fact, he's the reason that I was able to do this. So I think if he was envious, he would have blocked it. You know what I mean? So
no,
yeah,
but
he's definitely the reason. You can't be the reason and envious at the same time. It just.
We have a question asking, did any new jokes come up for you?
No, not from that. I wasn't looking at it for that. I was looking at it for just to see what would happen. And maybe I do it again on another time, see what happens, and maybe then. But I think I got to get a few rounds in me before I can start getting into a space of taking from there.
We can also open the audience here if you have questions. Does anyone want to ask? Yeah.
What was the dose?
15 grams.
Question was, what was the dose for those
Yeah.
live
Oh
streams?
yeah, sorry.
No problem.
Yeah.
It was 15 grams, which I hear is a lot, right, Jeff? But I don't know. It didn't. I think maybe what would I do next? 20? 20, 25. All right,
Moving up.
crazy. Yeah.
You're moving up in this world.
Yeah, I just want to see how much further I can go. I feel like I got to the surface of it, and I didn't really get too deep into it, and I'd like to go a little deeper. We played just the tip with it, basically.
Some questions back there.
For someone that's starting out, is it recommended they go to a full dosage like that before microdosing, or is microdosing a good start?
Question was, is microdosing a good start, or if someone's starting out, and maybe Jeff, come on up here, because you're out there, just share the mic with you. This is Jeff Hamburg. You see him all over our website. Yeah. Organizes community events for us and everything. And it had to do with microdosing and the hero dose, they call it. Is there sort of a recommendation on how to start? Can you start slow? Oh, is that a mic?
That's a mic.
Oh, I thought we were like, rolling the dice here.
Wow. Why don't you switch mics with him?
Yeah. Oh, it's okay. You want to talk about that?
Check.
It's a good question, of course, and that's something that Sarah and I talk about a lot, about if microdosing would help if you had a full dose, and the other way around, of course. And I have the feeling that taking a full dose might be a good start before you start microdosing, so that you have sort of understand what the psychedelic world is and be able to navigate it to know where you're going. Sometimes we talk about milestones. Is that what they're called? That this is where we can get to, and then you can use microdosing in your daily practice to get to that place.
Yeah, because when I first spoke to you on Zoom last year, and you were like, well, what makes you want to do this? I go, well, I think microdosing. You go, oh, no, you're not going to microdose. You need to understand the full dose before you microdose. And it made sense to me, you know?
And Sarah, what's the science behind the recollection of if you've done a dose and then you do another one down the road and like sort of what it brings back to your first
So
experiences?
there's a mechanism in neuroscience, we call it fire together, wire together, right? So when you have an experience, your brain really rewires itself in that way. And then potentially, and we don't know this yet, I've talked to quite a few scientists that have this intuition that potentially microdosing, because it is such a small dose, will have a bigger effect after you've had this strong effect that wired your brain to know how to get into the psychedelic state. So that's one of the ideas. But I think it really depends also on, you know, what people are aiming for and what they want to get out of it, you know?
Will I be, if I do it again, let's just say I do it without Jeff, do you think I would be wise to put the blindfold back on? Or would I be better suited to try it with my eyes open this time?
Well, to be honest, exactly what Sarah said, it depends on what your intention is. There's so many ways to appreciate psychedelics. In nature, it's one of the most beautiful things, just as walk in the woods and talk to the trees. And
Yeah, that's what my wife said. She said that it's great when you go out and you look at leaves, they become vibrant and they start moving and talking. And
yeah, that's what
and I'm
Albert
like, I don't know if I
Hoffman
want
said.
that,
Yeah.
you know.
A few more questions, and then I guess wrap this. How long have we been going for?
10 minutes.
Yeah, it's been, we are on a dose.
Like 5 more minutes.
There was a question.
No, yeah.
Have I tried it? Yeah. Oh, great. So yeah, yes. Actually, you know, where I used to try it was back in my college days. We would go on. My family had a cottage. Well, my dad still has it. That worked out well for him. But and we would do like our buddy trips. A bunch of high school friends that ended up going off to different colleges, but we'd meet once a year at my dad's place, and we would just sort of consume mushrooms without a therapist or just kind of doing it more to goof around. Like, we didn't know why we were doing it, other than the factors just to get, like, effed up, right? We thought. With that being said, and this was a 4 to 5 year consistent sort of annual weekend we did, other than the one time my buddy who was nicknamed Granny went off in the canoe, and it really ruined the entire time because we were so freaked out if he'd ever come back alive. That's where that was a terrible time.
That's where his whole boat trip thing came from.
Yeah. We go on canoes, the red light trips,
Yeah.
by the way. The whole goal is not to tip each other off. I learned that in therapy too. Yeah. You're in the boat together. I think back now, or at least the last few years since I've delved into this world, and those were truthfully the most I'd say transformational nights in my life. We woke up, I had a good group of friends and all very successful guys, all with family, all hard workers. And, we were lost in those days. We didn't know where we'd end up. And I think back to the sort of the success, not just like professional success, but family success of everyone. And we figured shit out during those nights about helping us all. We came together as a unit, and other than the one guy in the canoe. And it was really, really important. So I think I'm probably ready again to do it, but yeah, I have tried it many times and loved each and every time. And currently, I'd like to microdose for sure, where I can legally. But I do like that because I'm a very, very anxious person. I'm on such a short trip here that I did not microdose this time because it's like an in and out trip. But when I'm here, yes, I will, for extended period of time, will microdose. You're welcome.
Maybe last question. Russell, do you feel more aligned now to the red light mission now that you've actually tried?
Well, I guess
That's a good question.
Definitely, because now I can speak from experience. It may not be a huge depth of experience, but at least I've done it now, and I know that I won't be talking out the side of my neck, so to speak. I've had people, I've seen, after I've done Rogan or whatever, and I mentioned the company, and then you get all these people attacking me, and they're like, "You never even did it. How can you say it?" And I'm like, "Listen, I never said I did it. You know what I mean? I'm not here to lie to you. So all I can do is tell you the truth, and now I can tell you the truth about my own experience."
Question over here.
How does your parents feel about it? Because it seems like a very strict people who go by the rules.
How would your parents feel about it? They seem like they might be strict people who go by the rules.
Well, my mom, I don't know if my mom knows I did it. I'll tell her. I'm not one of those I won't hide it from my parents either. No, it's fine. I don't mind telling them. I'm going
His mom blocked him from Twitter a long time ago.
Yeah, no, my mom's cool with it. She'll be like, well, why are you doing drugs? And I'm like, it's not, Mom, it's not. It's from the earth. And my dad, I'm pretty sure my dad, if my dad was alive, I wonder if he ever did it. You know what I mean? Like, these are things you never ask an Indian father. Dad, you ever trip out on mushrooms? I knew he liked to drink. I mean, he must have dabbled somewhere, somehow. He was in World War II. I'm sure there was something going on.
Yeah, and I think this is sort of the amazing part, that you can use your voice to actually destigmatize these things.
Yeah.
And even, you're making jokes out of it, but it is really great potentially for your mom to hear this from you.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely going to tell her, and she's going to be like, well, now that she's going to make a joke out of it herself. She's going to call me a drug addict now, and it's going to be amazing. My mom is the kind of person who just takes it in stride. She's like, all right, well, so this is what you're doing now, huh? And I'm like, no, this is what I just did. I tried it,
I'm worried if you ever talk to your assistant in real life, because he has a second question here.
From the earth, where were the truffles grown and how fresh were they?
Oh, well, that's a Hans question, but the truffles were grown. The question of speaking from the earth, where were they grown? We have a truffle farm in Horst, the Netherlands, and they would have been extraordinarily fresh, as they typically have just about a 3-month shelf life. So we have Hans has instituted a great program in terms of like a conveyor belt system, really, where they get grown fresh, they get out the door, they go into smart shops, or they get shipped for potential therapeutic sessions, and so they would have been within, for sure, a few weeks to a month. I would imagine.
Jeff says they were a few days, right?
A few days.
Yeah.
A few days. That's only the best stuff for Russell Peters.
Yeah,
Come on.
When I'm spending that much money doing it.
Question far back in the far. Thank you.
I've heard a lot about microdosing and actually ingesting the substances. Can you talk a bit about integration?
Sarah or Jeff?
Integration for large doses or in small doses? For microdosing. That's a very good question, but it also has to do with intent, what you want to achieve with your microdosing regime. And for instance, we give mindfulness and microdosing Zoom sessions once a month to help people feel what they're achieving and what they're doing while they're microdosing. I think that's really important to have a small journal, for instance, to know how you're
For instance,
improving.
the iMicro app journal. I'll be the salesperson, yeah.
Okay, I'm the therapist, she's the salesperson, right? Because it's very important, because sometimes in the beginning you think you're like in a bad place, you might be like a 4 or 5, and then you're getting better and better, and you write down it's a 7 or an 8, and then you have a bad day, and you think, oh, nothing's working, everything's for nothing, and then you realize, if you look at your journal, wow, I'm really feeling a lot better. The lows are much higher than they were before. So it's really important to have a good idea of what your journey is about, and to be aware of your body, be aware of your habits and what you're doing. But like I said, intent is really important, because some people just want to have fun. Some people want to be more concentrated with work. Some people want to calm their ADD.
It didn't work for me.
As I see Russell shaking his legs, like, I think we've done the event long enough here.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Maybe one last question.
One last question.
This Mikey guy's asking it 5 times. Would you recommend it for other people, for athletes, for comedians?
Oh yeah, I mean, I definitely wouldn't. I wouldn't advise people against it. I think if you're open to it, definitely give it a shot. And I'm not a guy who was ever open to this type of stuff. I just, had such a stigma around it for so long, that it was always like, ooh, these are these crazy drugs that, they're going to make you go mental, and, you're going to lose your mind. And having, learned way more about it over the years, and seeing how it's affected people that I know in such a positive way, that I'm like, there's got to be something to this. And, when they don't want you to have something, all they're going to do is tell you negative things about it. And the more you learn about it, the more you realize, oh, this is just propaganda that they were spewing on us before. And having done it now and seeing, it's cool. I had a good time with it.
And I think it's important to mention that we've been taking mushrooms for about 3,000 years.
At least, yeah. Absolutely.
And I would say that it's not only
if that, probably longer.
But I think the stigma we could have put on ourselves too in the day, like back to those trips where someone asked me with my college buddies, it was like, yeah, let's go effed up, and you're sitting watching the stucco ceiling come down, and like, let's go reverse mountain climbing, like you're putting yourself in a
Reverse mountain climbing?
because you're lying down and there are like mountains coming at you, and you're like trying to. This is the stuff that went through my head at the time, and
You really hung around white guys, huh?
oh yeah, a lot of white guys. I've never mountain climbed in my life, by the way, but it really, I think now all of this helps, right? The conversation from the science, from the therapeutic side, from even the big pharma side that's trying to, while we don't always agree necessarily, but, trying to synthesize a naturally occurring substance just to patent it, to have control over it. But we really believe in, the access, affordable access, equitable access, and celebrating and learning about the thousands of years of usage. So, I mean, and this all helps.
I think purity of the product is very important too. The more pure the product is, the less you have to worry about it.
That's what we feel. Yeah, I mean, and the purity about discussing it. And this happened. We didn't. We talked about this for about a year, 2 years, but it happened, and it happened naturally.
Yeah.
Time goes on, and I don't know if we need to get into any more questions. I think it's sort of gone on long enough, but. I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, first want to thank Russell Peters, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you for opening up. I mean, listen, it's not always easy to do that, but you never know, you're the guy now that publicly has done psychedelics. That's still weird at some points in the world,
It is
believe
a little
it or
bit,
not.
yeah.
So thank you for doing that.
Hey, what's the youngest age you think somebody should try this at? Now, and I don't mean from a legal perspective. I mean, is there
From a brain perspective,
yeah.
There are a lot of factors. When I was in Ecuador, I was drinking ayahuasca, and the children of the shaman were drinking ayahuasca, drinking much more than I could handle.
Right.
And the next day they were playing football and having a lot of fun, and we were all, oh my God, what's going on?
Right.
So in some cultures, when you're 7, 8 years old, it's okay. But I mean, it has to do with the whole culture, the whole context.
Yeah, you're also genetically programmed that way at that point.
Exactly. And Indians as well.
Mine or the other ones?
yours.
Mine or the fake ones? Yeah.
Well, I just to add to that, I know we're going to end things, but I mean, will we get to a point where parents might go, instead of these SSRIs that we're prescribing children or putting them on the Adderalls and all these kind of stuff, do you think there will be a time where a parent might go, I'd much rather give my 12-year-old, a microdose of a naturally occurring, because personally, especially learning so much from Sarah and reading all the science now, all the stuff she forwards me, and I actually forward you a bunch too, but I feel like I would rather that approach.
Without preaching, I'd love to preach. Rituals are also very important, and we've been doing a lot of that ourselves. Big in groups. It can be very therapeutic to have a tribe and to be able to take psychedelics with your parents and talk about the things that are important to you. So context is really important, but it's a beautiful idea.
Yeah,
really.
I think there's amazing potential in intergenerational healing, and that's what I honestly love about Jeff and Mirte's practice. Right, she's his daughter. It's so healing to see a type of relationship like that between parent and daughter. It's just mind blowing.
Well, that did freak me out because I didn't realize she was his daughter yesterday. I said, oh, and what did I ask you? How are you?
Well, you said you thought I was his young wife.
Yeah, I did. I know that. I definitely thought. I thought Mirte was his young wife. I was like, oh, this American guy's moved to Holland and has taken on a young wife, and I'm like, well, that's fine. I mean, that's what Americans do. I, can't find him at home. You might as well come here. And then she goes, no, I'm his daughter. I go, oh, okay. That threw me for a loop because I was like, again, because the stigma is so ingrained in your head from what you've heard your whole life that you're like, so wait, is he giving drugs to his daughter? Like that's how my brain is processing this. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, he's a horrible man. He's giving drugs to his kids.
Or did his kids give him drugs?
Yeah, and then you realize that they really have this solid understanding of what's happening, and it's not done in this crazy way at all. It's done in a very normal, controlled way.
And all our friends come over also to do drugs.
Yeah, I mean, that's, better at your house, I think, than somewhere else,
But what a nice peacefulness the two of them have, honestly. I look at you and your daughter. I would love to have a relationship like that with my daughter one day in 25 years, right?
Yeah, because, I was one time where I lifted up my blinders to see them, and they were just sitting on the couch watching us. And she had her head on her dad's shoulder, and I was like, oh, that's so nice. And I went, blink, and went back. She was reading a book, and I was like, that's how I want my daughter and I to be. And like, and that's, my daughter and I are very close like that, so I kind of related it the same way,
Love it. Well, once again, thank you to Russell Peters, everybody. I'd sell his world tour, but just, it's everywhere. Go find him.
You'll find him.
And we'll, hopefully do more stuff like this on the Red Light Cruise one day. No.
The Red Light Canoe Cruise coming up.
I want to ensure that I thank all the entire Red Light Holland team. Because we're on one side of the world and they're here really making stuff happen where we can really commercialize and market and promote and talk carefully and educationally. And thank Hans Derricks is here. Thank you to Hans. Marchen, one of our, I never know how to say your name, but one of our great
Martin,
sales.
just call him Martin.
I just call him Martin. Yeah, Martin's here, and we have some clients here and stuff, and of course just just great people who came out to help put this all together. And it's a big event. There's not many events where you sit on stage with someone, with this type of backing behind him of followers and people who know him to talk about things so openly. So I'm super proud of us at Red Light Holland to do this together as a team. And of course, I have to thank Jeff Hamburg. Thank you to Jeff.
I'd like to thank Jeff myself and his wonderful daughter for, facilitating this for me.
Thank you all. And if anyone actually does have inquisitions or inquiries about wanting to do this, get in touch with us. We'll figure out a way to do it. And everything made possible by Sarah Hashkas, our CTIO. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you to everyone listening here and everyone watching us live stream back home or across the world. Red Light Holland, redlight.co for all the information you need. And this will live online forever. So hopefully you enjoy it. Share it with your friends. Share it with your family. And hopefully we opened up your mind into a very interesting world that we feel like many more catalysts are to come for us all to learn together. Thank you again.
Hey.